Lo and behold, the salted soul has returned once again. Hey, it's Mike. Today, let's talk about abilities. See, I was watching a video by Jiggyyy, with 3 Ys, and it was about Sonic's abilities. The history and how weird they be, what's come and gone. And I thought I'd make my 2 cents on that as someone who's made a video on how the control scheme changes be a muscle memory nightmare for even longtime fans, let alone newcomers. I made a rather long comment and figured I might as well just make a video actually. Now, as someone who's had a bit of a side hobby of coming up with hypothetical control schemes, I was more passionate about this whole thing than I expected. As one bit near the end of the video made this whole chart thing showing like 20 moves and saying what 5 from that list should Sonic keep for the foreseeable future. And me being me, well, yeah, I can't just pick 5. So I thought I'd go over the list, talk about my thought process on what I think could be implemented and how, especially since some moves are already combined in essence when you think about it. Let's start with the oldest move, the spin dash. A staple of this series since its debut in Sonic 2. It's mostly been consistent in appearances with the exceptions of Heroes and console boost games until it returns with Update 2 of Frontiers. With Spin Dash actually sticking around again, maybe just have that air variant as the drop dash, which debuted in Mania. And just do that instead for quicker access instead of pressing jump 3 times. Using Spin Dash in the air in Frontiers is effectively better, as it's just having better handling compared to Frontiers drop dash and being rather stiff. And since I am one of those nerds who like momentum physics, yes, I want Spin Attack to use said physics while moving, building speed on slopes and all that. It's fun and a big part of the series since the beginning. By extension, let's talk Lightspeed Attack. Originating from Sonic Adventure, it's charged by the Spin Dash and does double damage to whatever it hits. I wouldn't mind it returning since it doesn't get in the way of other moves in this regard. Just fix the targeting system to work like those multi-targeting homing moves in Lost World Frontiers and then you're set really. As for the Lightspeed Dash, I tend to call it Ring Dash when the proper term is Light Dash, but It works fine as is with how Frontiers implemented it. If anything, I find it weird that it and Spin Dash are made exclusive to Wisp usage in the games those show up in. Most things Wisp do feels like something a Sonic character should do on their own anyways. If anything, the Green Wisp just has me wondering if Tails should start light dashing too, since he can already fly like that to begin with. Now, Parkour. That came from Lost World originally. Though you could technically say Sonic in general has always been parkour in a way, but this was specifically for stuff like wall running without needing slopes and such to do so. It's basically been lumped together with Peel Out, which originated in CD, and the Boost, which originated from Rush, oddly enough in Lost World and Frontiers respectively. Odd pairings there. Honestly, just replace the weird pose you do when you hold the Boost button down without moving in Frontiers with the Peel Out animation from Lost World, and that's just a 3-in-1 right there. Could give charging it a combat incentive instead of just boosting immediately for evasion and platforming. Throw in double damage as well for a risk-reward type deal. Running on water is a must for top speed, by the way. Bring that back with Figure 8, oozing style. Wall jump and triangle jump is an odd case though. First instance of Sonic's wall jump was Sonic Unleashed, I'm pretty sure, with triangle jump from Heroes being a more snappy horizontal variant with the move instead of vertical. Regardless, both are basically incorporating the parkour movement now, so unless you want the specific style of the Heroes triangle jumps over the Lost World / Frontiers ones, it's pretty much all 3 without issue. While we're still on the jumping matters, let's get to the double jump. It originated from Sonic 3 with the electric shield, but it has like an odd history. Like it was usable without shields in Sonic Blast and Sonic R. Maybe you could count the Advance and Rush games if you count like trick actions and tag actions, which are moves in and of themselves I wish we got more with, but that's a whole other thing to get into. properly returning double jumps with colors well over a decade later, though. And it only really stuck from Lost World onwards, oddly enough. I don't mind it. I know some prefer just having one jump, but it doesn't get in the way for me. Just decided that if it stays or not, because, sheesh, it's like a weird flip-flopping thing. I am glad that homing attack is its own button now, though, because it makes things way less awkward now compared to like colors where both are on the same button. You're trying to like double jump and you end up homing attack by mistake. Speaking of, homing attack debuted in Sonic 3D Blast via that gold shield item, but it was usable on its own from Adventure onwards, clearly. And it's pretty much been a series staple. Hard to find a game since then without it that isn't literally a classic era throwback, and even then those aren't entirely safe. Like, it still shows up in Sonic 4, Generations, Superstars. Obviously it's a keeper for its use in 3D. But then there's its sibling, the Air Dash, which also originated from Sonic 3, but was usable without the shield upgrades from Adventure onwards. Air Dash is an odd case because it's overridden by the air boost by default in the boost games if you have the energy in the boost meter. So it's not as reliable to use without boosting off way farther than intended sometimes. I'm thinking maybe map it to the homing attack button so that it works when not locked onto something, like in the adventure games. It would be punching the air and losing all your aerial momentum, like in Frontiers at least. But if you want to cancel that momentum, well, that's where you got your bounce and your stomp. Bounce was originally from Sonic 3 with the bubble shield, but was usable as a base move with upgrades from Adventure 2, while Stomp pretty much replaced it in Unleashed. Where things get rough, though, is choosing between Bounce and Stomp. Both have their useful traits for getting higher and staying low quickly, respectively. It's hard to pick one over the other. Maybe Sonic keeps one while the other goes to a different character, or maybe start with the Stomp and get Bounce as an upgrade. Maybe tap the Bounce and hold the Stomp. Look, Jump Stomp, it just ain't the same, man. I'm sorry. I need that proper bounce back. Especially with how it interacts with slopes like a bouncing ball, or how you could spam it to dribble. Some fun physics stuff there. I need that. Now, what you do after stomping? Crouching, and by extension crawling and sliding. Now, slide kick's been a thing since Adventure 2 technically, as you do so after the somersault by pressing the button twice. And it carried over into games like the Advanced Trilogy and Heroes, but removed the somersault bit from Shadow of 5 onwards, and started sliding down slopes more instead of stopping. It's a staple of the boost games, and in Unleashed you could even crawl around from a standstill and sweep kick while sliding or crawling. I like how there's like a low AoE sweep as much as the next guy, so it's unfortunate it doesn't return after Unleashed. You just slide from a standstill. But I mind it coming back, don't see why not. Especially since sliding can reach smaller spaces and tripping enemies, while rolling works better for picking up speed and ramming into things. It's really just the somersault that's pointless now, if you can spin attack again. On that note, let's get some other moves I'd actually get rid of out of the way. First off, Rocket Excel from Sonic Heroes. It's pretty much just redundant if you already have Spin Dash, and as it was basically replacing that move to make the whole teamwork mechanics more viable. Besides the tag action, Sonic Accelerator from Advanced 3 is basically just better and easier to pull off, even if you can't play as Sonic himself to use it. The Magic Hand from Adventure 2 never really felt like a Sonic move to me. Maybe give that to someone else if it has to come back. Maybe Amy could do something with it. Heck, we can do a story bit where Sonic gives it to her as a gift, I don't know. And then the Shoe Gems from 06, again, mostly for redundancy. Kinda got a list here for it, actually. So you got the blue gem with the Mach speed. We already have Boost, which feels way better to control, so that's out. Red gem has the Time Slow. We already got like Time Stop / Chaos Control and SA2, and the time breaks and secret rings. So you can just use like one of those depending on if you want to add it. It's already kind of there as part of the parry mechanic in Frontiers even. So yeah, don't really need that either. Yellow Gem's Thunder Guard. If you're gonna bring back the elemental shields, then really there's no point. There's even like better block or parry moves from games like Unleashed, Black Knight, and Frontiers. Again, those are like more involved in use, but kind of just make the Thunder Guard feel pointless. Then there's the White Gem's Homing Smash. Stronger homing attacks specifically are already a thing in Lost World and Frontiers. I mean, the latter is like a Nux exclusive move, but still. Even then, it's like, why not just make a permanent upgrade to a normal homing attack, or just increase the strengths as like a stat thing, like Unleashed and Frontiers does with like their whole stat system thing going on. Then you have the Purple Gem Scale and the Sky Gem's Gun Drive. Both of these are basically just game-breaking stuff, like infinite jumps or launching yourself out of bounds into who knows what. Maybe the latter could be replaced with a more reasonable to control grapple mechanic or something. I'll probably get more into that later. And then there's the Green Gem's Tornado. We already have a Blue Tornado from Heroes, which itself was effectively replaced by the Quick Psi Loop. Let's focus on that last one actually. Blue Tornado and Tornado are made redundant by the Quick Psi Loop by doing the same thing basically. At least with normal Psi Loop you could make a case that it takes longer, but Quick Psi Loop is meant for launching targets into the air quickly who have defenses against normal attacks, but like Blue Tornado did in Heroes. Now, should we keep Psi Loop in general? Granted, I figured it was tied to the whole cyberspace stuff in Frontiers. It would be like a one-time thing. But considering that it was going to be called Spin Cycle originally, they could just make some variation that isn't tied to cyberspace for all we know, so that it can still be in a sequel with a new setting. But I want to keep it. I don't find it to be a problem, so I could go either way with it, honestly. Now, I brought up various block and parry moves when bringing up the Yellow Gem, not really being necessary anymore. However, something I have neglected to cover sooner was the Insta Shield. At first, I figured there was no point in bringing it back from the few 2D games it was in. You know, like Sonic 3, Advance 3. As it wasn't really useful in 3D, but then I realized something. It was basically the original parry mechanic when you think about it. So maybe you could replace the parry when you're rolling? I don't know, it could go either way, but I wouldn't miss it if it's not. The elemental shields, on the other hand, I still see usage outside of the abilities they used to give Sonic, since they have passives that benefit all characters regardless. You know, fire and electric immunities, walking on lava, magnet properties, not drowning, and that kind of thing. Into the nitty gritty here, let's talk accessory type items, since the fire ring is also on the lineup. The fire ring itself added fire properties to the somersault, but since that ain't coming back, maybe it could augment other moves. I mean, between that fire dash from Sonic 3, the speed break from Secret Rings, and that fiery slide kick from Advance 3. Heck, got like fireballs if speed battle counts, I don't know. It could be used to justify some variations on the base version of those moves. You know, air dash, boost, slide kick, since they're already in the set. Crystal Ring reduced charge time for the light speed attack. That could extend the strike dash if it came back, or extend the boost meter maybe. It could vary. Bounce bracelet, light shoes, stomp shoes, wall jump shoes, and air boost shoes. Those all kind of speak for themselves. Although if most of those had to be collected over the course of a game instead of abilities available from the start, might need some way to make the additions to the model less cluttered. Like this one redesign I did a couple of years back. Having most of these items as part of one bracelet, or showing the shoes with a key detail when using that specific ability. I guess custom shoes from 06 could live on in that way, funnily enough. And then there's Mystic Melody. It's more like a key than a skill, really. Activate certain platforms or just outright opens doors. It's a SA2 exclusive one. It doesn't really have to be part of a core moveset to use at any time since it's entirely context sensitive, like a reaction command or a QuickTime event. Finally, on Jiggyy's list we have the other Frontiers abilities, which is basically the combat system. Personally, I would revamp the combat entirely, have a bit more depth to it, but maybe that's my inner hack and slash fan talking. I feel like the fandom would complain about it being more complicated than one button for combos, and how much the Werehog was hated gameplay-wise. A shame, really. Could use some good setups for air combo, some crowd control, launchers, spikes, the works. More involved than just watching a mini cinematic via 2-button combo while spamming square in between. Even if we stick to one main attack button, other moves brought up earlier could contribute to the intuitiveness of some of the combo potential, you know, like sweep kicks for tripping, a quick side loop for launchers, insta shield for a high speed parry without stopping. If Transformers has taught me anything, is that cheating the spin dash into the combo would be badass. Transformers Devastation is a goddamn masterpiece. Do yourself a favor and find any means necessary to play it. But like, throwing some homing attacks and light speed attacks, it may making some good openings to chain into combos from. Like, can you imagine? If I were to be so inclined to take the hack and slash inspiration further, well, let's just say I'm a huge fan of Devil May Cry and Kingdom Hearts, and I think there's something to learn from their playbooks. There's a clips there to include you when I'm talking about style switching. It's just wishful thinking on my end, but I think it could add to the combo potential, as well as adding a bit more ability options for characters, namely like replacing the side loop button with other stuff like a grapple mechanic like I mentioned earlier. Sonic Boom was onto something with those enter beams, and I think it should be capitalized on. Like Forces did though, that's too automated. Give it more control. Or perhaps a special attack like a Surge Slash with a third fighting style based on the sword. Yes, I'd bring the sword back. I like it and I want to make it cooler. Of course, I don't really expect Sonic Team to implement something that complicated. It's just wishful thinking on my end to make combat more exciting. And the implementation wouldn't be hard. Just switch styles with the D-pad, just like the examples I got the idea from. As you can probably tell, I'm very passionate about movesets, it seems. I read a whole 5-page script on this, even though I was originally going to do it off the cuff, but I really wanted to get my thoughts out on this in an organized manner, to be concise and snappy about it, and have the video not drag on too long. Crazy how spur-of-the-moment idea like this kind of got this out quick compared to like a crazy long timeline video plan I've been putting on hold. Not sure what that says about me, but hey, fun to make. I mean, I could go on about possibly implementing tag actions, movesets for other characters. I already got like a full set idea for Tails done, and I'm working on a next one currently. Or even just my thought process on my Sonic redesign details and how I'd approach doing so with other characters in the future. I really be getting into it, not gonna lie. But yeah. Even though I didn't keep to the 5 moves rule Jiggyyy set, it was something I really wanted to talk about, and I think this should come out rather well, all things considered. I don't expect everyone to like how I would do things, but to each their own, I guess. Anyways, that's my take on all that Sonic ability and moveset stuff. Do the YouTube things if you're feeling it. I gotta grind out more videos on the other weird stuff I want to talk about. Later.